This week on Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Sometimes classics can be made from the most exotic materials.
Well, I call it made out of unattainium.
That's really rare. Hey, nice looking green Army truck.
What's known as 240-87 olive drab semi-gloss.
Of course it is. I bet this Chevy Apache gets a lot of looks.
It attracts flies.
Not exactly the crowd I expected. Plus,
Horrible, horrible. Very, very unsatisfied customer.
Mike has tips on picking the right shop. Ready for this week's Cruisin'?
There's a guarantee on that.
Let's get started. Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine, starts right now. Welcome to Cruisin'. I'm John Shapiro, publisher of Cruisin' Times Magazine. I'm getting ready to take my in-flight test in this F4S Phantom 2. They don't know about it yet, but let's keep it a secret. But we're here in Greene, Ohio at the Maps Museum Classic Car Show. Let's take flight for another edition of Cruisin'.
What we have here is a 1958 Dodge M37 B1 weapons carrier. The M37 replaced the World War II Dodges with the upgrading to a 24-volt electrical system and the ability to ford up to your neck and cross rivers. That was one of the things they found during the Second World War, is that the military Dodges were unable to have waterproofing and ford the rivers. So they upgraded that. They made the M37 from 1951 to 1968, the most widely produced military Dodge vehicle for the United States military, and yet there's not one model kit or die-cast model made. I bought this in October of '05 and did a frame-up restoration, moved under its own power, and again in April of '09. My father and I, my dad Benjamin, we bought the truck together. Sadly, he passed away before I could get it street-worthy, so for the serial number I used the year of the truck, 58, and then my dad's birthday of '09, 16, 18.
And how'd you come up with, in other words, on the bumper, first of the 19th Field Artillery?
First 19th Field Artillery. That's my stepson Andy's graduation outfit at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And the headquarters truck number 7 is just a generic truck number I
Now explain some of you did the whole restoration that includes the olive drab paint.
Yes, this is painted in what's known as 240-87 olive drab semi-gloss, which replaced the flat olive drabs that you see on the World War II vehicles. The M37 came into late in the Korean War and then was finally retired in about the mid-'80s. Many of them went into brush fire truck service, were sold to municipalities for a couple, $2, $3, and that's how I found this truck. It was a brush fire truck stripped of all its military stuff, painted with about 15 coats of rolled on fire engine red, and had to do a lot of shot and sandblasting to get that paint off. And like any old vehicle, when you start doing that, you discover there's a lot of Swiss cheese underneath the paint. And,
where'd you find all the parts?
Well, this being one of the most widely produced Dodge military trucks, and there's so many in civilian service, there's a lot of parts out there. It's a standard flathead 6 Chrysler, basically a DeSoto block that's almost 100 years old, so there's plenty of engine parts. It's the Chrysler Industrial in this truck that has a governor on it. So you had a whopping, if you had to get out of trouble and were being shot at, you had a whopping top speed of about 45 miles an hour to do it.
Take us around the interior. You've got a helmet there with cigarettes.
Yeah, that was, the classic look that people always kind of wonder about, that cigarette pack in the helmet and what the guys would do, particularly in the Vietnam era, when they were crossing streams and rivers. They didn't want their cigarettes to get wet, so they tucked them up in the helmet there. And I guess it goes back to World War II also. You see that upon occasion. After about a 2-year search of the internet, I found a mascot, the Beetle Bailey dog Otto that you see on the side of the truck there, and just a trench shovel, flashlight, the kind of things you might find in a truck out in the field like this.
1908 Ford Model S Roadster.
Correct. The reason I bought and restored this car is my grandfather originally helped design part of the car. And he worked for Henry Ford in 1906 through 1908 designing cars. In turn, it was a lot of fun to find my grandfather's initials on some drawings at the Henry Ford Museum. This was the predecessor of the Model T. When Henry was through his series of designs that he did until he perfected what he really wanted, he got up to the the NRS series, realized there were issues, and then they started on the design of the Model T directly after finishing the Model NRS series.
Now I noticed that it has a little seat in the back. It's not a rumble seat.
It's called a mother-in-law seat.
Where your mother-in-law would sit back there.
Well, she sort of holds down the toolbox, the glove box, whatever.
Now we're accustomed to a lot of stainless steel and chrome, but we got brass here today, right?
This is the brass era, the true horseless carriage era. The radiator, headlights, taillights, steering column, pedals, shift lever on the outside is actually steel that's brass plated. It's kind of fun to drive around. People aren't used to seeing right-hand drive because this is actually the last U.S. production car to have right-hand drive for Ford. It was the Model T that introduced the left-hand drive.
How about go power?
She's a whole whopping 4-cylinder, 15 horsepower.
15 horses.
Well, that's a lot of horses back then. After all, it replaced all the 1-horsepower vehicles. It can be a handful to drive if you get on a squirrely road, because you have to remember there were no paved roads in 1905 when the car was initially designed.
Now, did you restore this?
Yes, I did. I found the car on a bulletin board at Hershey.
Really bad condition.
The pistons were rusted in the cylinders. The transmission was all worn out. The rear end was, well, the drive shaft in the rear end was moving 1/10 of an inch in and out of the gear. So everything had to be replaced and rebuilt. And I tried to keep it as true as I could. A few parts I modernized a little bit because I wanted to last in the future. It's original color. It was originally all red with black pinstripes. So, in fact, the original Model Ts were red with black pinstripes. And then they went to all black because they couldn't keep up with the production doing multiple colors.
So where do you find parts for a 1908 Ford? I mean,
well, I call it made out of unattainium. So in turn, I have to build a lot of parts from scratch. The hood I had to build from scratch, keeping it as true and original as possible. But some things you just can't get, so you have to make them.
And where'd you find the tires?
Those are standard early Model T tires.
Dime a dozen.
I think I paid $125 a tire when I bought those. The earlier N series had a tire that was 2 inches smaller. And then they went to this size, and then this stayed with the Model T for the early models. I have no idea what gas mileage I get because it's there's no odometer, there's no gas gauge. You put a stick in the gas tank to find out how much gas you have.
Next up,
My dad bought it before I was born.
a Chevy that's been in the family for years. Coming up on Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine.
The original titanium exhaust wrap from DEI. Stronger and tougher than fiberglass with a carbon fiber look. Withstands extreme temperatures, improved thermal performance, reducing underhood temps. Run cooler, run stronger with the original titanium exhaust wrap from DEI. Get thermal acoustic control with Boom Mat from DEI. Easy to apply, Boom Mat offers a complete line of products to keep your interior cool and quiet. Starting as low as $7.95, Boom Mat has you covered. Keep your interior cool and quiet with Boom Mat.
Now, back to Cruisin', presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. It's one of those all in the family. How'd you get it?
Yep. Actually, my dad bought it before I was born. And as far as I know, he used it a couple of years and then he stored it and never used it before. My dad passed away in 1990. And we found this in the storage place and might as well restore it. And that's what I did.
Well, it's cool, I'll tell you. Everything is original?
Most parts are original. The engine is original. There's some parts that are not original, like cooler. The brakes are still the original brakes in it. Never changed the brakes out. It's got the master cylinder, still the same.
Now it's got a 6-cylinder?
6-cylinder, Blue Flame, 235.
Now tell us about the air conditioning system.
Well, my dad bought that original with it. It's actually not a water cooler, it's a dry ice cooler. And you open the knob on the top. It's like a cork. And you drop the dry ice in, the liquid dry ice, and you shut it down again and just drive and it cools. And it cools pretty quickly. It freezes over on the top and the passenger will freeze. There's a guarantee on that.
You said the original paint is in the front right now, and you just painted the back?
Yes, my dad had a flatbed because he used it, he was a realtor, and at that time he did a lot of work himself, so he used it as a flatbed. When I restored it, I took that flatbed off. Of course, that was wood. The inlay is oak. It has about 9 or 10 layers of coating on it, clear coat, marine clear coat. And the stripes were actually black, so I chromed them to match it a little bit better. The front paint here is still the original 1949 black 3M paint, but actually Chevrolet used.
You've got the most unique set of taillights.
Yeah, they're actually from a Harley-Davidson. I got blinkers, I got the taillight, and I got the stoplight. They're all separate.
And then in the bed rail, I guess, is your other stoplight.
Yes, sir. They're just inlays. They stop, when you stop, they show up.
In the front, it looks like the same treatment for your blinkers.
Yes, I just have the blinkers. They're also Harley-Davidson, and the fog lights are the original fog lights, 1949. They're 6-volt.
The car behind me is a 1967 Chevelle with a 396 engine. It was bored out. It's about 402 cubes, and I bought the car from Epi Chevrolet at the end of 1967 for approximately $3,100. I never kept the bill of sale. I should have, but I didn't, and I'll give you the exact amount, but that's approximately what it was.
So this was bought brand new.
It was bought brand new, right?
And since then, has it been a daily driver until?
Well, it's the last 10 years I've had it out a lot during the summer, of course, but during winter I don't drive it.
What condition was the paint in before that?
The paint was in pretty good shape. A speed shop painted, buffed it, and primed it, and did all their magic with it.
Are these original tires?
Yes, the original tires, yes. Bias ply tires.
And then wheels, everything chrome?
Yep, rally wheels, with the original rally wheels on it.
Now give us a tour of the interior. What's the inside looking like?
Well, the interior is gold, just like the color that's on the exterior. We did the carpeting, put sound deadener on the floor. We did a lot of minor things to it. Put felt in the windows and new rubber around the doors and new speakers and all that kind of stuff with it.
Well, I got to tell you, this looks like it just drove off the showroom floor in 1967.
Yeah, I just got done 3 weeks ago buffing it. After you get done buffing it, you wipe it down really good and keep rubbing, and it'll bring out the high gloss exterior on it, the color in it. It brings out the color in it. Deep is the color.
And who's the bear in the back?
The bear in the back, I think, came from my wife. Yeah.
So she rides with you all the time?
Yeah, that's a constant companion, and I get no complaints from that bear. He just rides wherever I go.
Let's visit Cruise In Marketplace. Tough Stuff Performance Accessories. All Tough Stuff products are quality made in Cleveland, Ohio using 100% new components. Tough Stuff has a complete line of underhood accessories for the custom and hot rod market. All Tough Stuff products meet or exceed OEM specifications. For more information, visit toughstuffperformance.com or call 1-800-331-6562. Portage Trim Custom Interiors. When you're ready for the best, visit their website, portagetrim.com, or call 1-330-296-5511. Cyclone Transmissions for street machines, hot rods, and everyday drivers. Call Rich at 330-639-1137. If you'd like to be a part of Cruise In Marketplace, give us a call. Call 330-697-4155 or email Mark now. info@cruisin.tv. Coming up,
Paying for work twice is never a good thing.
Mike has tips to save you time and money. Next on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Welcome back to Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine.
Hi, I'm Mike, and this is my garage. Okay guys, today, something I talk about a lot. Not trying to be on the pedestal or anything, but plain and simple. Nice lady, Tammy, brought me her 69 Camaro RS car. Took it to another shop, paid a premium to work on a classic car above their standard rate. People don't have to spend the money on these cars. But we do because we love them. It's our pride and joy, and we want to cruise them and show them off and be a part of history, showing these beautiful cars. Well, paid the premium, picked the car up, horrible, horrible. Very, very unsatisfied customer. Tammy thought she went through all this. Tammy also had friends through the NEOCC, Northeast Ohio Camaro Club, that thought this was a good shop to go to. You know, painters that know anything about paint and color, yellow, very, very bad color for hiding. Colors don't match. It was all painted apart, probably painted at different times, painted far away from each other, maybe parts hung. There's nothing wrong with painting that way, but you have to take the proper steps in doing so. Paint, horrible finish, orange peel. Now, just really, really poor quality job. All the work that her father and her friend Terry worked with, making a nice, detailed, beautiful car. Now it's got this kind of so-so hum-dum paint job on it. Now she's got to pay twice to have it done, and she thought she found the right shop. Again, guys, take the time, do the research, and if the car is not acceptable, don't accept it. Make them make good. You know, fittings where lines don't line up, gaps where you can stick your hands in them. That's not good. Gaps where they're almost touching, which will cause paint issues, chipping, cracking. Over time, you know, this is a car that you want to last for a long time. You're putting a lot of money into. All the extra, the parts, the nice, pretty, shiny stuff still can't make a bad paint job look good. You know, I know she just wanted a cruise-in car. Tammy was really waiting for this car for a long time. Well, now prolongs that process again. Sometimes you may want to wait to get into a shop that you know is good instead of rushing to get it into a shop that will do the work. And a lot of times a collision shop, it's all about the insurance work. The classics are just kind of, you know, almost a burden to them because they take up a lot of space, they take too long. You know, an insurance check on a collision job pays faster, pays better. So think about where you're taking your car to have the work done, because paying for work twice is never a good thing. We'll catch you next week on Mike's Garage.
Next on Cruise In.
So I traded a guy a Corvette for this thing.
Which one? Find out after this on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine. Now, back to Maps Car Show on Cruise In, presented by Cruisin' Times Magazine.
I've got my 48 Ford F3 bomb disposal truck and a 59 Chevy Apache pickup. Started with the 48 and had a lot of work to do on it, so I decided it was time to pick up something for an everyday driver. So I traded a guy a Corvette for this thing, and it was originally built in Bedford, Ohio for a guy out in New Jersey, and so I did the trade and brought it back to Ohio now.
Tell us about we'll start off with the Apache. What engine?
The Apache's got a 454 Chevy out of a late model Suburban, so it's kind of a hot rod truck. The car's been lowered down a bit. It's got a new set of radar mags on it with new white wall tires. It's got a new oak bed put in the back of it. It's painted a bright Corvette yellow so people can see it coming down the road.
It also attracts what?
It attracts flies, so everyone that has a yellow car calls it fly yellow, because you park it out in a field like this and the bugs will be all over it.
Your 48, tell us about that.
The 48 comes from Navarre, Ohio, a place called King's Fruit Farm. Spent its whole life driving up and down apple orchards, so it only has 20-some thousand miles on it. So I got it and we drove it for a while and used it as a construction truck. We did some remodeling at the house. We hauled a couple thousand pounds of stone in it. And this spring we decided to make it look a little more fun, so we converted it into a U.S. Navy bomb disposal truck. And since I'd spent a lot of years working in the Philippines, I brought a Philippine license plate back and put that on it.
What motor for the Ford?
The Ford's got an old flathead 6-cylinder, lots of torque, no top speed, probably goes about 45 miles an hour. But it can pull tree stumps in the meantime.
What's been the hardest part of this Ford truck to build as far as to get back into running order?
Oh, I don't think there's any hard part to working on an old vehicle. That's therapy for most of us in this hobby. So we just do it because that's what we love. You don't find us in the bars, you find us back in the garage. I got everything, but brains, I guess, is according to my wife.
That's good. If your wife's looking for you, she knows where to look for you, right?
I'm not very far away. She rings the dinner bell, I'm there.
Well, that puts the wraps on another edition of Cruise In. I'm John Shapiro, and we're here at the MAPS Aviation Museum. You get a chance, check it out. They've got all sorts of cool stuff, gift shop, airplane, military vehicles, military tents, all happening here in Greene, Ohio. We'll see you next week on Cruise In.